This is one of the biggest changes I have ever seen. I was so concerned I somehow mistyped something. That's how bad this number is. Today, we are going to count down the top 6 ways in which Trump is losing the key core group of independents, because independent voters are who elect our presidents of the United States. And we can see that Donald John Trump is in a whole heck of a lot of trouble with independents, because take a look here. Independent support for Trump back during the 2024 election. Look at this. He won by 1-2 points among independents over Kamala Harris, and that basically matched his nationwide margin. But down he goes. My goodness gracious. He looks like Greg Louganis now. He's so far underwater with independents. In the average poll, get this, he's 43 points underwater with independents. That is a movement, my dear friends, of 45 points in the wrong direction with independent voters. And it's not just that Trump has lost so much ground with independent voters. Why don't we take a look and put this into some historical perspective? Because these numbers are even more frightening for the president of the United States. Why don't we just look at this? The worst net approval ratings with independents at this point in term 2 of a presidency. Guess who has the worst net approval rating? It's the current president, Donald John Trump. We're talking about the fact that he's 43 points underwater. That is actually worse. That is actually worse than Richard Nixon was during the height of the Watergate scandal back in 1974. Nixon was just 36 points underwater. Trump easily beating that, but in the wrong way. Trump is also beating George W. Bush, who was 35 points underwater. Of course, he was caught up in the Iraq War at this particular point in his presidency. Very interesting to note, of course, Trump right now involved with the Iran War, Bush involved with the Iraq War. In neither case is it working out well for those 2 presidents. But here's the thing. What is the main thing that is driving this? And of course, it's the economy. But more than that, it's the cost of living. It's inflation. It was the thing that got Donald Trump elected to the White House. But you can just see it here. This is one of the biggest changes I have ever seen. My eyes literally, they're popping out. I don't know if they're popping out if it's coming across to you on the other side of the screen, but they are literally popping out because you rarely see changes like this. Look at this. Independence on Trump and inflation. When you went back to the 2024 election, Trump beat Kamala Harris on inflation. He was more trusted on inflation by, get this, 9 points. Look at this switcheroo. Trump's net approval. I thought, honestly, I went through the spreadsheets because I was so concerned I somehow mistyped something. That's how bad this number is. He is 70 points underwater on inflation right now when it comes to his net approval rating. That is a 79-point shift in, what is that, a year and a half's worth of time since the 2024 election? My goodness gracious. You rarely ever see numbers this bad with independents, but that's exactly where the president is on inflation. And it is so bad that when I think of inflation, right, and I think of inflation-seeking presidencies, I think of 2 presidents. I think of Joe Biden, but really, I think of James Earl Carter, Jimmy Carter on inflation. And look at how Trump compares to where Carter was just before, of course, he got crushed by Ronald Reagan back in the 1980 election. Look at this. Net approval rating on inflation among independents. You get Trump here, right? 70 points underwater. Jimmy Carter was only 55 points underwater. And of course, Carter got absolutely annihilated in that election to Ronald Reagan back in 1980, winning just a few states and getting crushed in the popular vote by about 10 points. And yet, Donald Trump is, get this, 15 points worse on inflation among independents than Jimmy Carter was back in 1980. Now, of course, one of the things that is driving up inflation at this particular point is the Iran war. It's foreign policy. And this is another area. It's the other key area in which Trump has absolutely blown the support of the independent electorate that got him elected back in 2024. Because just take a look at this particular case. Look at this. Independence on Trump and foreign policy. Back in the 2024 election, look at this. Voters trusted him, independent voters trusted him more on foreign policy by 14 points over Kamala Harris, right? He, of course, at that particular point, played up the idea, no more foreign wars, etc. Obviously, that didn't really hold with Iran, right? And look at how the voters have punished him. His net approval rating now, 47 points underwater. That's an over 60-point switcheroo, again, in the wrong direction. He set, in voters' minds, They were told one thing, and then Donald Trump went around and did something completely different, and now they've absolutely taken their punishment out on them. Again, we're talking about a 61-point switcheroo. Trump, he's like Jacques Cousteau at this point. That is how far underwater he is. Now, again, I am very interested in putting these numbers in historical perspective because I think it's so important to understand the depths of which Trump is underwater. So take a look at Trump compared to other presidents in this century when it comes to, at this point in term number 2, their net approval rating on foreign policy among independents. You see Trump 47 points underwater. That's the worst. It's the worst. Barack Obama was 25 points underwater. That's not particularly good, but it's a whole heck of a lot better than being 47 points underwater. And then, of course, I mentioned earlier on, George W. Bush, we were involved in the Iraq War back then, but he was only 43 points underwater. I mean, we're just talking again about history making numbers, but not in the way that, in fact, you want to be making history. Thank you, my dear friend Nick Tutson. I'm a little thirsty. Hold on one second. Now that's some good stuff. I always love a good diet soda, although I'm not quite sure I'd call them diet versus zero sugar. Either way, here's the whole thing, though. It's not just about Donald Trump, right? It's about the future as well. So we've talked about the 6 key elements, right? We've spoken about Trump with independence compared to the past, putting it in perspective, then inflation compared to the past, putting it in perspective, and then foreign policy, and then, of course, putting it into some historical perspective compared to other presidents. And those are the 6 key ways, those 6 key nuggets. But now it's on to the bonus section of our program, looking towards the future, because I think it's just so important to note that what's going on with Trump in the White House could and probably will have major ramifications come November and the midterm elections. Choice for the U.S. House among independents. In the 2024 election, Republicans won independents, get this, for the House of Representatives by 1, 2, 3 points, very much matching how they did nationally. But look now. Democrats are ahead by 16 points. That's a switcheroo of nearly 20 points. That's a switcheroo, if I'm doing my math correctly, of 19 points. Democrats have this lead right now. That's why they are leading overall in the generic ballot. But it is not just about 2026 and the Democrats' drive to take back the House of Representatives. It's about 2028 as well. And take a look here. 2 key likely, one of these guys is probably running for president, right? If not both of them. That's what we could say. But take a look at their net approval among independents. GOP contenders for 2028. J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States. Look at this. 44 points underwater, according to Fox News. That's absolutely atrocious. How about Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State? He's doing a little bit better, but not much. He's 36 points underwater. The bottom line is this. If a rising tide lifts all boats, then a sinking boat pulls everybody down with them. And that's exactly what's happening with Marco Rubio, exactly what's happening with J.D. Vance. So the bottom line is this. We look at Trump. He's struggling with independence to a historic degree, and it could have major ramifications come November, and it could definitely have major ramifications come 2028. I hope you folks enjoyed this look at independence. And if you want me to cover a topic in the future, just leave a comment in the comment section, and we'll see if we can get to it. We'll see you around.